Over 300 lives lost and a killer in scrubs. This chilling story centres on Charles Edmund Cullen, a nurse who confessed to murdering at least 13 patients during his 16-year career in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. The actual number, though, is believed to be much higher, with some estimates reaching a staggering 400. Cullen, dubbed the Angel of Death, preyed on the vulnerable, injecting them with lethal doses of drugs, often while they slept. He moved from hospital to hospital, leaving a chilling trail of death in his wake. Cullen's reign of terror began in 1987. He was a quiet, unassuming figure, blending seamlessly into the bustling hospital environment. This allowed him to operate undetected, moving from room to room, a silent predator cloaked in the uniform of care. His weapon of choice? Powerful medications meant to heal, twisted into instruments of death. His victims, often elderly and already grappling with serious illnesses, stood little chance. Their deaths were often attributed to their existing conditions, masking the sinister truth. This only fueled Cullen's terrifying game, allowing him to continue his spree, his true motives remaining a chilling mystery. Cullen's path of destruction began at St. Barnabas Medical Center in New Jersey. A patient under his care, ostensibly there for an allergic reaction to aspirin, died suddenly. The cause? A lethal dose of digoxin, a heart medication found in her system. This was just the first in a string of suspicious deaths that would follow Cullen from one hospital to another. He moved from Somerset Medical Center to Warren Hospital, each institution unwittingly harbouring a monster within its walls. The pattern was eerily consistent. Unexpected deaths, often involving heart medications that Cullen had access to. Whispers of his possible involvement began to surface, but concrete evidence remained elusive. Cullen's colleagues, trained to save lives, were unknowingly working alongside a silent killer. They trusted him, unaware of the darkness lurking beneath his calm demeanour. Little did they know that their oath to do no harm was being horrifically violated right under their noses. The hospitals, too, places meant for healing, became unwitting accomplices in Cullen's macabre charade. What drove Charles Cullen to commit such heinous acts? This question has haunted investigators, psychologists, and the families of his victims for years. Some point to a troubled childhood, marked by the deaths of several family members, which might have instilled in him a warped sense of mortality. Others cite his own history of depression and suicidal tendencies as potential catalysts for his deadly actions. Cullen himself has offered conflicting explanations for his crimes. He has claimed that his actions were acts of mercy, a twisted form of euthanasia intended to end his patients' suffering. However, many of his victims were not terminally ill, casting doubt on his claims. His confessions painted a picture of a deeply disturbed individual grappling with inner demons. He described feeling a compulsion to kill, a dark urge he felt powerless to resist. Was it a desire for control, a twisted sense of power over life and death that fueled his actions? Or was it something even more sinister, a deep-seated malice that found its outlet in the most horrific way imaginable? Born in West Orange, New Jersey, in 1960, Charles Cullen's early life was marked by tragedy and instability. The youngest of 8 children, he was just 9 years old when his father died. This loss had a profound impact on him, plunging him into a world of grief and uncertainty. His teenage years were no less turbulent. He attempted suicide multiple times, a harbinger of the darkness that would come to define his life. Cullen's struggles with mental health went largely unaddressed, setting the stage for a dangerous trajectory. After dropping out of high school, Cullen drifted, seemingly lost and directionless. He enlisted in the Navy, serving as a submarine crew member, but his demons followed him. He attempted suicide again, leading to a discharge and further fueling his downward spiral. This pattern of instability and despair continued, casting a long shadow over his future. Section 5. Whispers in the corridors. Despite the growing number of suspicious deaths linked to Cullen, his crimes continued undetected for years. Whispers circulated among nurses and staff at the various hospitals where he worked, but concrete evidence remained elusive. Some colleagues suspected wrongdoing, but their concerns weren't taken seriously enough. Hospital administrators were often reluctant to investigate their own, fearing negative publicity and potential lawsuits. This reluctance to delve deeper, to confront the possibility that a serial killer might be operating within their walls, allowed Cullen to continue his murderous spree unchecked. The lack of communication between medical facilities further compounded the problem. When Cullen moved from one hospital to another, his past remained largely unexamined. There was no system in place to flag suspicious behavior or share information about potentially dangerous individuals. This systemic failure allowed a predator to seamlessly integrate into different healthcare settings, with devastating consequences. Section 6. The walls close in. The net finally began to close in on Cullen in 2003. His crimes, long shrouded in secrecy and deceit, were about to be exposed. A determined detective, noticing a pattern of suspicious deaths at Somerset Medical Centre, began piecing together the puzzle. At the same time, a courageous nurse, Amy Loughran, who had befriended Cullen, grew suspicious of his actions. Torn between loyalty and her duty to her patients, she bravely contacted the authorities. Loughran's information, coupled with the detective's findings, provided the crucial break in the case. Cullen was finally apprehended, his reign of terror brought to an abrupt end. The news of his arrest sent shockwaves through the medical community and the nation. How could someone entrusted with the care of the vulnerable betray that trust in such a horrific way? Section 7. Unmasking Evil, the Confession. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Charles Cullen confessed to his crimes. He admitted to injecting patients with lethal doses of drugs, often without their knowledge or consent. His confession, chilling in its detail, revealed a mind consumed by darkness. Cullen claimed that his actions were motivated by a desire to end suffering. However, his victims were not all terminally ill, casting doubt on his claims. His motives remain a subject of debate to this day, a chilling reminder of the unfathomable depths of human depravity. His confession sent ripples of shock and horror throughout the country. The public grappled with the realization that a trusted healthcare professional could be capable of such unspeakable acts. Families of Cullen's victims were left to grapple with the unimaginable grief of losing loved ones in such a horrific manner. Section 8. A broken system exposed. The Cullen case exposed a chilling truth, a systemic failure within the healthcare system that allowed his crimes to go undetected for so long. Hospitals, often more concerned with protecting their reputations than protecting patients, failed to adequately address warning signs. The lack of communication between institutions, coupled with a reluctance to report suspicious activity, created a dangerous environment. Cullen exploited these weaknesses, moving from one hospital to another, leaving a trail of death in his wake. In the wake of the scandal, hospitals across the country faced scrutiny. The Cullen case served as a wake-up call, highlighting the urgent need for reform. It became painfully clear that changes were needed to protect patients and prevent such atrocities from happening again. Section 9. In the wake of tragedy, a legacy of change. The legacy of Charles Cullen's crimes is one of profound sadness, anger, and ultimately a call for change. His case sparked widespread reform in medical practices, particularly in patient safety and oversight of healthcare professionals. Hospitals implemented stricter protocols for medication dispensing and disposal, making it more difficult for individuals to divert drugs for nefarious purposes. Background checks on healthcare workers became more rigorous, aiming to identify individuals with a history of misconduct. Perhaps most importantly, Cullen's case fostered a culture of greater transparency and communication within the healthcare system. Hospitals were encouraged to share information about potentially dangerous employees, preventing them from moving from one institution to another undetected. The Cullen case, though a horrific chapter in medical history, ultimately led to significant improvements in patient safety, ensuring that such a tragedy would be less likely to occur again.